do I feel like I linger? Linger between the words to say the words to remember.
What's going on, guys? Today's video is extremely exciting. I'm doing another fighter v fighter match, and continuing with the theme of the Baki versus the Kengan Ashura and Kengan Omega series. This episode will be the Fang of Metsudo, Kanoh Agito, versus Retsu Kaioh. To give a little background on our fighters and some of their best showings in their show, I'll be going over a little bit of how hard they can hit, how hard they can get hit and keep moving, what exactly their kit of moves is, comprised of. So first, I guess we'll start with Retsu Kaioh. Now, in terms of strength, Retsu is pretty clear-cut, to say the least. I mean, when we first see him towards the beginning of the series, we know he's already stronger than people like Katsumi and Baki, Katsumi and Baki being comparable to each other, and Retsu actually being stronger and, a better fighter than Baki, as we see in their fight against each other, as Baki's actually only able to beat Retsu due to awakening his demon back powers. Now granted, he was only able to halfway awaken his demon back. As we see with Jack, a full awakening of the demon back gives him a much higher boost in stats, but nonetheless, just by half awakening the demon back, he was able to double the strength of his kicks, according to Retsu.
His kicks just doubled in force.
And it's seen later on that this is a flat boost, meaning, Jack goes from being stronger and faster than Baki to being weaker and slower than Baki. So there is, I think it would be fair to say that it's probably a 4 times multiplier thereabout, if halfway is a double in strength and speed. But I digress. Retsu versus a base Baki, is superior. Then, of course, a little bit later on in the series, we see that Retsu is probably comparable to death row inmate Dorian Kaioh. Now, originally, Dorian Kaioh was Retsu's senior, so I would say it'd be fair to say that Dorian was actually stronger and faster than Retsu. However, Dorian actually left the Balin Temple, and Retsu seems to have grown considerably stronger due to his time fighting in the underground and growing with Baki's group and whatnot, fighting their enemies, fighting amongst themselves, training, getting stronger, stuff like that. I think it'd be fairer to say, after taking into consideration Retsu's growth and Dorian's decline in strength and speed due to his over-reliance on cheap tricks and cheating, like his wire and his vomit grenades and his hypnosis and everything, I think it's a lot fairer to say that they're equals now. And I mean, like if you need look any further, we already know Dorian's on the stronger end of the convicts. He was even able to, albeit in a losing battle, in an uphill battle, he was even able to go toe-to-toe with Tiger Slayer Doppo Orochi. That guy was a top tier in the maximum tournament. But as far as the other convicts, we know that Doyle is probably, at least in straight physical stats, he's probably the second weakest, or maybe the weakest, that either being Doyle or Yanagi, since Yanagi is very good with technique and cheating, but he's about as strong as Shibukawa without Aikido, and Doyle mainly relies on the weapons he has in his body. It'd be safe to say that Dorian is considerably stronger than Doyle, and yet we all remember what Retsu did to Doyle. In any case, we even see later on, in a fight between Retsu and an extremely weakened Dorian, that Retsu is strong enough to punch Dorian in the face, causing permanent brain damage and mental regression to the mindset of a toddler. And it should be no surprise that this is the caliber of strength we're seeing from Retsu Kaioh, as it's pretty consistent, even going all the way back to his first appearance in the maximum tournament. He's able to blow a hole through a concrete wall reinforced with steel, pretty casually, I might add. In his younger years, training at the Byakurenji Temple, he was actually able to put a massive crack in this huge metal bell. Very impressive stuff. And to just quickly touch on the topic of speed before we go into what really makes Retsu impressive, because, with stats like these, he doesn't really actually stand a chance against Agito. Just to give you a baseline of like where he started in terms of speed, he was already as fast as Baki. He was able to match Baki in speed. The man being able to do things like perform the Mach punch, which is of course a punch thrown at the speed of sound. And he was even able to blitz people like Sikorsky when he got serious. We see that a few times in the manga and the anime during the death row inmates when they came to Tokyo. Of course, with the death row inmates showing combat feats and speed feats of their own, that would put them around the levels of like a supersonic level fighter. We even have like, a 13-year-old Baki being able to blitz like massive crowds of people, placing him at around subsonic. That's a fair thing to say. So now, as far as Retsu at his peak, in his final appearance. At this point, we've seen that he has, mastered the weapons that he was using against Doyle. He's mastered, he's gotten pretty good at least at boxing. He's dipped his toes in the world of karate. He's pretty good at, everything he's picked up so far. And he's even added defensive Shaoli to his arsenal of, tricks that he has. And he actually fights Miyamoto Musashi, and he does pretty well against him. He's very impressive, with his back and forth with Musashi, but sadly, Retsu Kaioh never stood a chance, and he loses to Miyamoto Musashi and dies. However, I say all that to say this. He is extremely powerful. Miyamoto Musashi goes back to say that as far as his level of strength, he says to Tokugawa that Retsu by himself was as strong as the Battle of Sekigahara, which was a fight where he fought numerous opponents by himself and is probably one of the hardest fights that he has ever experienced. So that is some high claim for Retsu, and that is pretty impressive for his strength. And of course, as far as speed would go, he is fast enough to fight a serious Musashi, and hell, Musashi was, almost as fast as Yujiro, and he's literally the fastest thing in the entire Baki series. There's maybe some contention with the hitless blow possibly being faster than him, but we know he's high into hypersonic ranges. Like there's one speed feat that he has that ends up placing him like roughly at around Mach 300, possibly Mach 400. But that one's a bit of an outlier, seeing as like the fastest thing in the entire series is, if I remember correctly, roughly around Mach 75 to 100. So that's a safer bet to place Yujiro. That's where he's more consistently seen. He doesn't blitz people quite badly enough to be considered, like that level of fast. Like we have no real evidence to say that 300 is an accurate representation of his speed. So even still, Retsu's up there in like the double digits of, Mach speed. That's pretty impressive for speed. Now, with the Fang stats, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because it's pretty clear cut. Now that we have a baseline for Retsu, I can basically just compare his stats to Retsu's stats. So in terms of durability and strength, Retsu actually has the advantage. His showings against Musashi were far more impressive than anything we see Agito experience during the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, though his fight against Kuroki Gensai is actually what places him in the realm that this should be a fairly equal fight. Retsu's hits are going to do a little more to the Fang than the Fang's hits are going to do to Retsu, and by that same token, Retsu's ability to take hits is going to be a little better than the Fang's. But, that's never really been an issue for the Fang. He's also got his amazing martial prowess and whatnot, and if it's any consolation to the people who were expecting Fang to wash, he does have a fairly decent speed advantage. Since the Fang pretty much scales down directly from Kuroki Gensai, it's pretty easy to find out where he places as far as, like, he may not be as fast as Rei, but he's still got a bit of an edge on Retsu as far as speed goes. Of course, the beard, even with his his analytical prediction and stuff like that, him being able to predict Rei's attack pattern, still to be able to react to it is still impressive. But yeah, that's basically how the fight goes in terms of, like, physical statistics. Retsu's the harder hitter, / he can take a hit better, but the Fang is faster. And now for seeing who the victor is. Well, it's a little bit disappointing, honestly, because, after reviewing, all of the Fang's abilities, such as, his indestructible, his dragon shot, his ability to adapt and overcome different martial arts, his, like, strength and speed increases just out of nowhere, like his like strength and speed reacting to his opponent's strength and speed. It's very quite possible that Agito could end up stronger, faster, and more durable than Retsu pretty early on in the fight, and that could be difficult considering they're both highly skilled, but Retsu doesn't have anything to counter the fact that, the Fang is going to adapt to his fighting styles specifically. That said, the winner is Retsu. The one thing the Fang cannot compensate for is too far out of his reach is Shaoli. Now, Shaoli is a very powerful ability. As a matter of fact, Retsu was able to take full power sword slashes, claimed to have the intent to kill, from Musashi himself, the same man who was able to cut through Yujiro Hanma's skin and some of his flesh. He was able to take those and survive. Now, eventually he was killed by these very same hits, but he was able to take multiple of these slashes, all of which are stronger than anything we've seen in the Kengan series to date. So he's able to take multiple of these. Yeah. I mean, he has, the Fang, he has great ability. And I think given enough time, he could overcome the Shaoli, but he just does not have that time. Retsu would literally have to stand there and do nothing for, like, several minutes, possibly even hours. We're talking about a man who, knows very similar techniques. The dragon shot. For every dragon shot, there's a Sunkei or a Musunkei, which is the same thing and better. The dragon shot is a point-blank, full-power hit. That's what the Sunkei is. The Moon Sunkei is literally a full-power punch thrown with not point-blank, but zero distance. It can be thrown from you touching the person. We're talking about the same Retsu Kaioh who can strike pressure points just as well with his toes he can with his hands. He has 4 instruments for grappling. He is able to toe grapple. Now, of course, the Fang would probably have superior grappling, as he was able to copy Okubo's grappling, one of the most amazing grapplers in the entirety of the Kengan verse. And I think it'd be fair to say that Okubo could out-grapple Retsu, even though he's at a 2-limb disadvantage technically. But, Retsu's move pool, I suppose the invisible squash would be useful one time, but, after he uses up, his one time, the only things that he's really got are, his crushing fist, would help against the Fang, because the Fang has the speed advantage. But again, these are a lot of tricks that are only going to work once, or maybe not at all, considering Agito's ability to counter-initiative somebody. These abilities may not even work. But he has no way past defensive Shaoli. He can hit Retsu as many times as he wants to, and he's never going to hurt him. He's never going to be able to do any damage to him. So Retsu literally has, basically as long as he wants, to try all of his different combos and techniques, and eventually something's going to stick. I'm not saying that it's impossible for the Fang to win, but odds are stacked against him like 6-4. So, unfortunately, for any Kengan fans that were watching, the winner of this fight is Retsu Kaioh. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you liked the video. Comment which fights you want to see next. I've got a ton of them lined up, but I would love some suggestions. Subscribe if you want to stick around on the channel to see more of this kind of content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.